Namaskar, everybody. What if I told you that everything that you think you are is just not the whole truth? What if I told you that who you believe yourself to be, like your name, your story, your traumas, your titles, even your thoughts, your preferences, all of your memories, that all of that is just a very thin veil, and behind it, something boundless and radiant and whole waits to be remembered or uncovered. You are not what you think you are. One more time. You are not what you think you are. So the mind, by its very nature, limits. It classifies, it defines, it identifies, it draws lines, it organizes experience into digestible fragments. It says, I am this, I am not that. It builds a personality, and that personality, in essence, becomes a prison if you never look deeper. But who were you before you believed your first thought? Who are you right now behind the flickering of mental activity? So if you sit very still, if you can for a moment just pause your identification with thinking, you'll notice something quite astonishing here. And that is that you are aware. And that awareness, it has no edges. That awareness isn't a product of the mind. It's not contained inside your head. It's not owned by the personality. It was here before the story, before the narrative began, and it remains regardless of whatever comes and goes. So this awareness is not an object. It can't be held. It can't be possessed. It can't be really defined. But it's more than anything else you've ever called yourself to be. So this is the self that we see with the capital S, not the self-image, not the ego structure, but the living conscious presence that just simply is. So we hear sages say, you are that. So they're saying hum so. In Sanskrit we say hum so. I am that. And they're pointing to this, right? It's to the mystery of your own being. Not as a concept, but as a living truth. And you're not a thing, right? You're not an object among objects. You are the field in which all things appear and disappear. You are the light of knowing and the witness of all of these experiences. But because the mind is obsessed with form, it can't recognize the formless because it's focused on form. So we spend decades, even a lifetime, seeking the infinite in finite places, which we would never find because we're looking for in finite places. Like in jobs, relationships, ideas, beliefs, ideals, positions of power, praise, identity. And then we wonder why we suffer. So the suffering isn't a punishment. It's a kind of invitation. It's life tapping you on the shoulder and saying, you've mistaken the map for the territory. You've taken the dream to be reality. So the real can't be thought, right? Because everything within a thought is a construct based on your limited experiences and memory, right? The real can't be imagined. The real has to be known directly, intimately, through stillness. So when you stop chasing the next thing, you become fully present with what already is, and the door, it begins to open. And in that presence, you begin to sense the vastness within yourself. Not a void, not an absence, but an uncontainable fullness. It's an aliveness beyond any kind of comprehension. And you begin to sense that you are not just in this moment. The moment is in you. You're not inside the body. The body appears within this awareness. And then something radical begins to dawn. You are not a fragment. You are not a separate unit of consciousness. You are the totality. The drop remembers it is the ocean. But here's the paradox. This can't be grasped intellectually. It can't be understood in the ordinary way. It's not about piling on more beliefs, more spiritual ideas, right? And to really realize all this, all concepts have to really fall away. You have to become naked, empty, still. And only then does the infinite reveal itself, not as something you find, but as something uncovered, something that you've always been. And it's not a poetic metaphor, right? It's a literal spiritual reality. You are that which no thought can reach. You are that which was never born and will never die. So the mind says, how can that be? Look at me. I'm struggling. I'm anxious. I feel small. I'm broken. I'm filled with pride. All of these things. And to that I say, yeah, of course. Because the false self feels that way. The constructed self, right? The ego. It has to feel limited because it is built on limitation. It's a survival mechanism. It's made of past impressions, past conclusions, and past reactions. Memory. It's all memory. That's it. But you're not that. You're not just memory. All of that is a mask. It's a temporary appearance. But the self, with a capital S here, the self is beyond pain and pleasure, beyond birth, beyond death, beyond gain, beyond loss. It's pure being, and it's untouched. So all suffering arises from the illusion of this separation. All peace arises from returning to that truth of unity, of interconnectedness, wholeness, homeostasis. And here's the grace within this. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to become worthy. You already are that. You simply need to look honestly and directly without distraction. That's why meditation is essential. Not to achieve something, not to get somewhere, but to strip away what isn't true. Meditation affords us the ability to view the thoughts, and within that continual viewing of the thought, we recognize that we are the witness, the observer, not the thought. And everything which happens in the mind is a thought, is an impression, is memory. So to become so quiet that truth announces itself here, we become so still that the infinite is all that remains. And when it reveals itself, not as an experience, but as your very nature, you'll just laugh. It's the cosmic joke. You'll realize that it was never far away. It was never missing. It was always here, just waiting behind the noise. So every spiritual tradition at the deepest core is pointing to this kind of same reality. The Buddhists speak of the unborn, the unconditioned. The Christians speak of the kingdom of heaven within, right? Vedantins speak of Atman as Brahman. The Tantrics speak of Shiva, Shakti, this pure consciousness and its creative power as your essence. They're different words, right? But it's one truth. And that truth lives in you. It is you, not in a book, not in a teacher, in you. So the one listening to this now, behind your eyes, before your name, prior to every story you tell about yourself, past all of the narrative, past all of the memory. Remember, everything you can conceive of is just based in memory, including who you think you are. You're not memory. You're not an object of memory. Just let me ask you, what would your life be like if you lived from this place of presence? What would happen to fear? What would happen to striving, to guilt, to shame? They'd just dissipate like shadows in the sun. You'd no longer search for love. You would be love. You'd no longer try to control anything because you would flow with life itself. You'd no longer ask, who am I? You would live the answer. And that answer wouldn't be a sentence. It would be silence. An unshakable knowing. I am. Just full stop. I am. Not I am this or I am that. Right? That's just memory once again. Just I am. And that's the doorway. That's the doorway. I am is the doorway. It's not it. It's the doorways. You want to get to that spot. That's the pulse of the infinite within you. Right? And it's available right now. Not after 1,000 lifetimes. Not after you've purified yourself. Not after you've figured it all out. Right now. You are already that. Just let that truth take root. Let it break you open. Let it undo everything that was never real. All of that memory, all of those things in your mind, including your identity, your sense of self, who you think you are, your biases, your prejudices, what you think is truth or not truth. Just let it dissolve, that self-image. All your defense mechanisms, your illusions of control. And when all of that falls, what remains is beauty, bliss, ananda. What remains is stillness. What remains is you as you truly are, not as a concept anymore. not as a construct, not as memory. So the next time the mind tells you you are not enough, or you are broken, or you must do more, be more, prove more, just take a breath and pause. Smile. Remember, that voice, it's not you. You're not a narrative. That thought is not truth, right? You are more than you can ever conceive, because you are not a concept, you're not a construct, you're not memory. You are reality itself, awake, aware, and infinite. And the moment you turn inward, not as some kind of escape, but as just a return, this truth begins to flower. The old you, which was based on all of this memory, will just crumble away on its own, and in its place, something timeless will stand, because it's always been there. That's who you are. That is the self. That is home. So come home now.